Welcome to Shadowed Tales Archive, a place where forgotten stories breathe again, where whispers crawl from the cracks of reality, and fear finds a voice. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and listen closely, because some tales were never meant to be told. Tonight's story is titled The Feast Inside. Let the shadows speak.
Part 1. The Thing in the Rolling Paper. I'll be honest, I've done some stupid shit for a high. Back when I was still bartending at this dingy little dive in northeast Philly, my life was basically one long stretch of smoke breaks and hangovers. I wasn't a junkie, not exactly. Just a guy who needed to turn the volume down sometimes. They say weed's harmless. They say it won't ruin your life. But they never tell you what happens when you smoke something that doesn't belong in this world. I met Mason the summer after my dad died. I was 19, raw with grief, bored as hell, and ready to light up anything that promised to take the edge off. Mason was a regular at the bar, older, sharp cheekbones, weird accent. The kind of guy who could sell you fireworks in February and make you believe it was a deal. I didn't trust him. But then again, I didn't really trust myself either. "You ever smoke something that made you see time?" he asked one night, leaning over the counter while I poured stale beer into plastic cups. "I've seen a lot of things," I said. "Mostly bills I can't pay." He laughed, this low, raspy chuckle like gravel in a blender. "Nah, kid. I'm talking about the real stuff. Prehistoric shit. Stuff that makes your bones ring like church bells." I figured he was just trying to sell me some off-brand acid or mushrooms. I wasn't interested until he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a joint already wrapped in yellowed paper that looked more like aged parchment than zigzag. "You try this," he whispered. "You'll never be hungry for anything else." I should have walked away. I should have made up an excuse, tossed him out for loitering, gone home and ordered pizza like a normal depressed 20-something. But I didn't. I took it. Didn't even charge him for the drink. The first time I smoked it, I thought I was having a panic attack. I was alone in my studio apartment, windows shut, TV muted. The weed burned with this strange smell, sweet but also rotten like fruit left out too long. The smoke curled in odd shapes. I thought I saw letters in it, writing in a language I couldn't read. Then the hunger started. At first it was just the usual munchies. I tore through the cereal cabinet, downed half a bottle of syrup, even drank pickle juice straight from the jar. But nothing worked. My stomach screamed. My hands were shaking. And when I looked into the mirror above the sink, for a moment I wasn't there. There was someone else staring back at me. Something hollow-eyed, grinning. I woke up the next morning on the floor with my mouth stained red. I thought it was hot sauce. It wasn't. There was blood on the kitchen tiles. Part 2. What comes with the smoke? The second time I lit up that cursed joint, I thought I was ready. I had cleaned the apartment, opened the windows, even set a timer on my phone to keep track of time. I told myself I'd just take a few hits and ride it out like a pro. But the second that smoke hit my lungs, I knew something was different. It was like the air got thicker, like I'd dropped underwater. Every sound stretched into slow, syrupy echoes. My heartbeat sounded like a distant war drum. And then the lights went out. Not just the apartment, not just the street, the entire world. One moment I was in my living room, and the next, it was gone. Everything, gone. Swallowed by blackness so deep it felt wet. The kind of dark that presses against your skin like it's trying to crawl inside. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't scream, but I could hear. Voices, whispers, not outside me, inside. Like the smoke had fingers and they were wriggling through my memories. "You took it willingly. We feed what you open. You'll never starve again." When I came to, my mouth tasted like copper and something foul, like meat left to rot in the sun. My tongue was shredded. I had bitten it, probably while convulsing on the floor. And there, right next to my overturned coffee table, was something new. A little scrap of paper, same kind Mason had used to roll that joint. But this one wasn't rolled. It was flat and covered in writing that shimmered and crawled like bugs under your skin. I picked it up, hands shaking, and it moved, just slightly, like breathing. That night I didn't sleep. I sat up with every light on, clutching a baseball bat like it would matter against whatever the hell I'd invited into my life. And then around 2:13 a.m. someone knocked at my door. Not like a neighbor, like a cop. 3 short pounds, sure, heavy, certain. I didn't answer, but I heard the voice, low, raspy. You smoked it, Nathan. You opened it. You fed. My real name, not the nickname everyone used, not what was on my work ID or mail. Nathaniel James Rowan. I hadn't heard it in years. The door never opened, but I never saw the city the same way again. The hunger didn't hit right away that time, but when it did, it was worse, much worse. It didn't start in my stomach, it started in my bones. This dull ache in my jaw like my teeth were growing or rearranging. My fingertips tingled like they were being hollowed out. And then I started to smell things. Not food, people, skin, sweat, hair. That oily scent behind the ears. The coppery tint of someone bleeding from a paper cut 3 rooms away made my mouth water. I quit my job 2 days later. Told my manager I had a family emergency out in Colorado. Truth was, I didn't want to risk being near anyone. I couldn't trust myself. I was dreaming of biting someone's neck just to see what it tasted like. On the 5th day, I saw Mason again. Not at the bar. Not on the street. He was on my couch when I came out of the bathroom. Sitting like he'd always belonged there, like the sag in the cushion was shaped just for him. Only now his face was different. Tighter. Sharper. Younger maybe, but also less human. His eyes didn't blink. His skin didn't crease. He looked like someone who had worn a human face so long it had begun to crack. "Looking thin, Nate," he said. "You did this to me," I rasped, throat dry, mouth filled with something like ashes. He just shrugged. "I gave you access, man. That's all. What you do with it, that's on you." I launched at him with the bat. Swung hard, but the bat went through him like smoke. He laughed, not with his mouth, with his whole body. And then he leaned in close enough for me to see the thing inside his pupils. It wasn't light. It wasn't darkness. It was something moving. "You need to eat, Nathan," he whispered, "or it'll eat you." Then he vanished. No flash, no puff of smoke, just gone. I stood there, panting, heart slamming against my ribs like a prisoner against iron bars. And all I could think was, he's right. I'm starving. Part 3. Something hollow, something warm. I tried everything to stop the hunger. Peanut butter straight from the jar. A whole rotisserie chicken eaten cold in one sitting. Frozen waffles, dry pasta, raw hot dogs. Nothing worked. It wasn't food I needed. It was something else. Something alive. Something inside people. I didn't want to believe it. Didn't want to be that guy. The guy who ends up on a true crime podcast with grainy mugshots and neighbors saying things like, he was always quiet, kept to himself. But when I passed a woman on the subway and felt my stomach turn from the smell of her skin, I knew I was in trouble. So I stopped going out. I taped blankets over the windows, put my phone in a drawer, shut the world out like it was some disease I didn't want to infect or be infected by. But it didn't help. The hunger was still there, gnawing at my spine, whispering behind my teeth. I started biting my knuckles without realizing. Found myself chewing at the inside of my cheek until it bled. One morning I woke up with a piece of my tongue missing. Then came the dreams. At first they were just weird, endless tunnels, flesh-colored walls, a sky that pulsed like a heartbeat. Then the dreams got specific. I saw a house, old Victorian peeling white paint, set on the edge of town near the dead-end train line. I knew the house, had passed it a dozen times, but in the dream, it was alive. Something inside it was calling to me, not in words, in feeling, warmth, comfort, fulfillment, the opposite of this gnawing, burning emptiness inside me. I held out as long as I could, 3 days without eating anything, barely drinking water. I figured if I could just starve it out, whatever it was, I'd be free. But that third night I started hallucinating, shadows moving along the walls, Mason's voice coming from the sink, my dead dog, Toby, scratching at the door and whimpering like he used to when storms rolled in. I broke. I put on my jacket, shoved my hands deep into the pockets so I wouldn't scratch my own arms open, and walked across town barefoot like a lunatic. I didn't feel the cold, didn't feel the cracked pavement or broken glass. I only felt one thing, pull, like a hook in my gut reeling me in. The house looked just like in the dream. More rundown up close, windows boarded up, front porch sagging like a broken rib cage. But there was a light on in the upstairs window. I didn't knock. I opened the door and stepped inside. The warmth hit me instantly. Not heat, not like a fire or radiator. This was organic, like being inside a womb. The air had that heavy, wet warmth of something breathing all around you. I walked through the foyer and into the living room, and there she was. A woman, maybe mid-30s, sitting cross-legged on the floor in a circle of red string. She didn't look surprised to see me. "Hungry?" she asked. I couldn't speak. She nodded like she already knew. "Name's Marin. You're the third this week." She pointed to the string. "You'll want to stay outside the circle, unless you wanted to notice you too soon." I glanced down. The string had little bone fragments tied into it, like beads on a necklace. Some of them looked human. "What is this?" I whispered. She tilted her head, smiled faintly. The other side of appetite. She told me things I still don't fully understand. That there's something ancient, older than gods, older than time. Something that lives in need, feeds on hunger, feeds through it. Sometimes it finds a way into our world, usually through desperation. Addicts, starvers, those who feel empty enough to open the door. Smoke is just one method. Mason, she said, was never human to begin with, just a delivery system. You smoked it, she said, so now it knows your shape, knows your void. Can I stop it? No, but you can starve it. She passed me a necklace made from string and tiny sharp stones. Some of them hummed when I touched them. Wear this, sleep in salt, don't dream, and whatever you do, don't feed. Then she handed me a paper-wrapped object. It was warm, alive, it pulsed. "This is a blood binder," she said. "You'll know when to use it." I didn't ask more questions. I just left, but I could still feel her eyes on me, like she knew what was coming. That night, I wrapped myself in salt lines and string charms. I didn't smoke, didn't sleep, but around 3 a.m. I heard it again. Something at the door, knocking, not with a hand, but with teeth. Part 4. The teeth that knock. The knocking didn't stop for hours. At first, I thought I imagined it. 3 soft thuds spaced like a heartbeat, then silence. But it came again, not just at the door, the window, the ceiling, the inside of the kitchen cabinet. I swear to God, something knocked from the drain. By sunrise, I hadn't slept. My mouth was dry as ash. My bones ached like I'd been hollowed out with a spoon. I could hear my stomach now, not just rumbling but whining like a starving dog clawing to be let out. I paced the apartment like a lunatic, salt line intact, charms humming faintly around my neck. My hands kept twitching toward the kitchen drawers, where the knives were. And in the fridge, raw meat. Frozen liver I bought for no real reason months ago. I lasted another day, maybe two. I don't remember. Everything blurred into one long stretch of cold sweat and hallucinations. Ted showed up again, but it wasn't Ted. It wore his face but poorly, like someone trying on skin that didn't fit. "Why are you fighting it?" the not Ted whispered. "You know what you are now." I screamed until my throat bled, and when I came to, the apartment smelled like iron and burnt teeth. That's when I called Marin. Didn't even know I had her number, but it was scribbled on the back of a takeout menu, in my handwriting. She showed up 20 minutes later. No questions. Just walked in, took one look at me and said, "You're close to breaking." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was true. "I dream of chewing through my own fingers," I whispered. She didn't flinch. "Let's go," she said. We drove in silence for nearly an hour, out past the industrial outskirts, past where the power lines ended, into a part of town where streetlights were just rumors and abandoned warehouses outnumbered people. We stopped at an old grain mill. Its windows were shattered, doors chained, but Marin had keys, not real ones, just bones carved into shapes. She pressed one into a gap in the metal door and it sang. The lock slid open. Inside was cold, not the temperature kind, the soul kind, the kind of cold you feel when someone you love is about to die. There were others waiting, 3 of them, all seated in a circle around what looked like a massive bowl carved from stone. 1 woman, 2 men, all gaunt, eyes sunken, covered in symbols drawn in charcoal and rust. They didn't look up when we entered. "This is a tether group," Marin said. "We're here to bind the hunger." I opened my mouth to ask how, but she was already kneeling beside the bowl, placing what looked like teeth into its center. Human. Something too long to be either. "Every hunger is a doorway," she said. "We're going to nail yours shut." The ritual didn't feel holy. It felt wrong, like trying to build a dam out of flesh and guilt. But I went along, chanted words I didn't know, bled into the stone, burned the scrap of paper that still breathed when I touched it, and for the first time in weeks, I felt full. Not happy, not healed, but full. That night I slept. No dreams, no knocks, just silence. It didn't last. 3 days later I saw him again. Mason, standing across the street from my building, wearing a butcher's apron now, holding something small and wriggling in his hand. When he saw me, he smiled. What? Crooked, rows of too many teeth. Then he vanished. Marin showed up unannounced the next night, her face pale, eyes rimmed red. "They found Ellis," she said. "Who's Ellis?" "One of the 3 in the ritual. The quiet guy." "What happened?" She looked at me, jaw tight. "They found most of him." I threw up in the sink, not from fear, from desire. The smell of blood on her coat made my mouth water. That night I redrew the salt line 3 times, burned sage, played white noise, tied bones to every doorknob, and still the knocking came. But this time it wasn't at the door. It was in my chest. Something was inside me now, knocking, scratching, asking to be let out, and I was running out of reasons to say no. Part 5. Hollowed things grow teeth. I started keeping notes on the hunger, like a scientist observing his own infection. How strong it was in the mornings, how it pulsed in my gums at night, whether the salt circle worked better clockwise or counterclockwise. which dreams left me drooling when I woke up. I knew I was losing it, but if I could track it, I could fight it, right? Day 24 since the first hit. The hunger speaks now, not in words, in urges, flashes of red behind my eyelids, imagining what someone's spine might sound like when bitten, daydreaming about pulling apart a steak with my teeth, only it's not a steak, it's someone's thigh. Sometimes I wake up chewing my own tongue. Sometimes I don't wake up alone. One morning I found claw marks on the inside of my bathroom mirror. It curved, as if something had been trapped behind the glass and wanted out. I lived alone, or at least I used to. Marin came back 2 nights after Ellis died. She looked worse. Her charm necklace was gone, her eyes bloodshot, and she walked like she had weights in her bones. We didn't speak at first. She just sat at my kitchen table, tracing her finger in lazy circles across the dusty wood. "You're still holding it in?" she asked. "For now. Most don't last this long." "I'm not most." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I need to show you something," she said after a while. I followed her out into the freezing dark. We didn't drive this time. We walked, out past the old freeway, into a grove of trees behind an abandoned water treatment plant. At the center of the grove was a hole, not a natural one, perfectly round, edges lined with broken glass and bones. It pulsed faintly like a heartbeat under the dirt, stank like rot and something older. "This is where it comes through," she said. "What is it?" She hesitated, then answered not with words but by pulling up her sleeve. Her arm was covered in teeth, tiny ones, just beneath the skin, like her pores had grown mouths. Some were moving, smiling. I stumbled back while rising. She didn't stop me, just rolled the sleeve back down. "I've been holding it in for 7 years," she said quietly, "since I was 16. "How?" "Balance, sacrifice, binding, and sometimes giving it just enough so it doesn't break me." "You mean?" "Animals mostly," she interrupted, "but not always." I felt the last of my innocence die in that moment. Marin wasn't my savior. She was a survivor, and survivors make ugly choices. We walked back in silence, but before she left, she handed me a photo. A child, thin, pale, black eyes too large for the face. Its mouth was sewn shut. "That's what happens if you feed it too much," she whispered. "It doesn't stop at your body. It starts using your face." That night, I stared at myself in the mirror for over an hour, watching, waiting, wondering when my reflection would blink out of sync. Day 26. The hunger tricked me. I dreamed of my mother, her voice soft, her hands warm. She offered me soup, said everything was okay. I woke up with something in my mouth. It was cold, rubbery. I spit it out. It was my own ear. The screaming didn't stop until morning. Marin called again. "I found another breach," she said. "Not far." She sent me an address. It was a hospital, long closed, condemned after a patient set fire to the maternity wing. I met her there just after dusk. Inside, it smelled like mildew, bleach, and afterbirth. Perfect combo for waking nightmares. She led me to the basement. Rows of rusted cribs, scribbles on the walls, symbols like the ones on the paper Mason gave me. And in the center of the floor, a spiral carved into the cement, filled with hair, nails. Some were still bleeding. "This one's fresh," she said. "Who did it?" "Not sure, but the hunger's spreading fast. It used to be picky, just addicts, the desperate. Now it's infecting anyone who touches it." "What do we do?" She handed me a blade. Not steel, obsidian, jagged, warm to the touch. "Next breach," she said, You don't bind it. You kill the host. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the bathtub, blade on my lap, shaking, because I knew what she meant. Next time, that host might be me. Day 29. The knocking comes from inside my head now. I bite my tongue until it splits. I pour bleach over my arms to kill the itch. I break my own nose to smell something other than meat. Nothing works. And worst of all, I'm starting to like the hunger. Feels powerful. Day 30. I followed a man home. Didn't know why. Just saw him on the subway. Smelled something in his sweat. Something sweet. Something innocent. I tailed him for 6 blocks before I realized what I was doing. Ran home. Slammed my fists against the walls until they bled. Screamed Marin's name into the mirror. But she didn't come. That night, I found another note under my pillow. Same parchment. Same crawling ink. Read, "You're not starving. You're hatching." Part 6. In the Cradle of Hunger. Day 32. I woke up on the roof, barefoot, shirtless, blood on my lips. Not mine. I don't remember climbing up there. Don't remember how long I'd been standing in the snow, but I remember what I was looking at. The apartment across the street. A baby's crib in the window. The hunger wasn't whispering anymore. It was singing. I locked myself in the closet after that. No food. No water. Just me, the obsidian blade, and whatever was left of my soul. I don't know how long I was in there. I scratched warnings into the wall. Don't feed. Remember who you were. No flesh is worth this. Day 34. Marin broke in. She found me curled in the corner, gnawing on a shoelace like it was jerky. She didn't speak, just sat down, lit a candle, and waited for me to stop shaking. When I could finally talk, I asked the question that had been festering in my skull for days. How do you live like this? She didn't answer at first, just stared at the candle, watching the flame flicker like it might reveal a better world. Then she said, "I don't live. I manage." That night she made us tea. Her hands shook as she poured it. I could tell she hadn't fed in a while either. We were both fraying, unraveling in real time. I told her about the rooftop, about the baby, about the way my mouth filled with saliva when I heard it cry. She didn't look surprised. "You're reaching the pivot," she said softly. "What's that?" "The point where it stops being hunger and becomes identity." That scared me more than anything else, because deep down I wanted it. Wanted to stop hurting, stop resisting, just give in and feel powerful. I remembered what Mason said. You'll never be hungry for anything else. Maybe that's not a curse. Maybe it's a promise. That night, Marin gave me 2 options. "We either seal it," she said, "or you surrender to it. What happens if I surrender? You'll become part of it. A vessel, a vector, a monster." She didn't deny it. The sealing would require another ritual, stronger than the first. Blood, fire, memory, and someone else to take the weight. A witness. I didn't ask who. I already knew. We broke into the old Lutheran church on Crenshaw and 7th. It had been abandoned for years, graffiti covered, piss-stained, broken windows and rotting pews. Perfect setting for an exorcism of something that didn't believe in God. Marin drew the circle in crushed bone and salt, lit candles shaped like twisted faces, placed the obsidian blade in the center, alongside a lock of her hair and a vial of her blood. "This ritual won't kill the hunger," she said, "but it'll bury it, deep. What happens to me? You'll remember. Everything." She nodded. "Even the taste." I stepped into the circle. Immediately my stomach twisted. The hunger screamed. My vision blurred. My skin burned. My teeth ached. Marin began the chant. I repeated after her, each word dripping with blood and memory. The candle flames flared. The symbols on the floor pulsed like wounds. And then, darkness. Not the unconscious kind. The other kind. The kind that lives between moments. The space between blinks. I stood in a hallway that wasn't real. Too long. Too narrow. Lined with mirrors that didn't reflect me. Only versions. In one I was tearing into a raw carcass. In another I was smiling with too many teeth. In the last I was holding Mason's face. He was laughing. Until I peeled it off. I ran. But the hallway didn't end. It looped. Like a maze designed by something that didn't believe in escape. And every step made me hungrier. I dropped to my knees. Screamed. Begged. And then I remembered. The first time I felt hunger wasn't after smoking Mason's joint. It was when I was 6. My father died in front of me, heart attack on the couch, face purple, eyes wide. I didn't cry. I didn't call for help. I crawled into his lap and fell asleep on his corpse. Because it was warm. Because I didn't want to feel alone. That was the seed. The root. The hunger was never given to me. It had always been there. Just waiting for an opening. When I woke up, the circle was broken. The candles were out. The blade was gone. And so was Marin. I stumbled outside. The sky was red. Not dawn. Not dusk. Wrong. A crimson smear like a wound across the clouds. And then I saw them. People on the street. Walking strangely. Too stiff. Too straight. Eyes black. Mouths smiling. Some of them I recognized. Neighbors. A cashier from the deli. A kid who used to ride the bus with me. All of them changed. All of them fed. The hunger had spread. Not like a disease. Like a religion. I wasn't cured. The ritual didn't save me. It activated something. A mark. The role. I wasn't just a victim anymore. I was chosen. In my jacket pocket I found another note. Same paper. Same ink that squirmed when you looked too long. Read. Welcome to the womb, Nathan. You're ready to mother. Part 7. The Mother Within. I stopped dreaming after the ritual. Not because the hunger was gone, far from it, but because the dreams had moved into my waking life. I'd see things now. With my eyes wide open, walls that breathed, skin that spoke, people with teeth growing behind their eyes, and I could understand them. They didn't speak in words, they spoke in lack, in need. Their voices sounded like stomachs growling, like bones creaking, like the silence between screams, and they called me one thing, over and over, Mother. I tried to run, packed a bag, left the city, got on a Greyhound with no destination. 3 hours in, the driver turned to me and said, without moving his mouth, "You can't run from what's inside, Nathan." I stepped off at the next station and saw Marin waiting on the bench. She looked worse than ever. Thin, eyes sunken, skin cracked like pottery, but she smiled. "Welcome back," she said. I didn't ask how she got there. I didn't ask how she knew where I was going. None of that mattered now. We both knew what was happening. "The hunger's in bloom," she told me as we walked. "Every breach you've passed, every choice you've made, it's grown inside you." "Then kill me," I said. "I can't," she replied. "I tried, remember?" And she held up her wrist. There, under the veins, was a scar shaped like my name. Not written, formed, like it had grown there. "We need to go back to the root," she said. "What root?" She didn't answer, only said, "You'll remember it when you see it." She took me back to where it all began. Not the apartment, not the alley where Mason first offered the joint. She took me to a house on the edge of the city. Familiar, too familiar. "Whose house is this?" I asked, but I already knew. It was the house I grew up in, my mother's house. She died when I was a teenager. Overdosed, they said. Pills, wine, bathtub. But I never cried. Never even attended the funeral. Some part of me was already numb by then. Inside, the house was exactly as I remembered. Dusty. Quiet. Photos on the wall of a boy I didn't recognize anymore. And in the living room, the couch. The same one where my father had died. Only now someone was sitting on it. It was me. But not quite. Younger. Thinner. Hollow. Eyes black as oil. It smiled when I entered. Finally, it whispered, "We've been so hungry." I backed away. But Marin didn't move. She stared at the younger me, at the thing that had grown inside the grief. "You fed it," she said. "Long before Mason. Long before the paper. It started here." And I remembered the night after my father died. My mother disappeared into her room, bottle in hand. I sat in the dark, hungry. No dinner, no comfort, and I whispered into the air. I wish something would feed me. I hadn't known what I was inviting, but it had heard. It had come, and it had stayed, feeding on every moment I felt alone, every craving I buried, every wound I refused to name. The thing on the couch stood, same height, same voice, but its smile had more teeth. It walked toward me, slow and graceful, like a shadow learning to dance. "You can't kill what you are," it said, "but you can become." Marin pulled the blade from her coat, the obsidian one, same one we used in the ritual. She handed it to me. No words, just a nod. I stepped into the circle. The living room suddenly looked different. Rotting wallpaper peeled like dead skin. The couch bled. The photos wept. And the young me, it spread its arms like a priest at the altar. I raised the blade, but I didn't stab. Not it. I turned the blade inward, toward my own chest. "You think self-sacrifice undoes the hunger?" It mocked. "You are the hunger." I drove the blade deep. Fire erupted in my gut, but I didn't die. I opened, like a door kicked inward, and something stepped out. Not a monster, not a god, a presence, made of silence and want and endless reaching. It filled the room, filled me, and I saw everything. The others like me, all across the country. The ones who smoked, who drank, who cut, who screamed, who whispered into the dark hoping something would answer. The hunger had answered, and now it was them. I saw Mason, but not as a man, as a carrier, a seed, one of many, spreading this religion of want, planting it in lonely soil. And me? I was the soil, but also the water, also the sunlight, also the harvest. I collapsed. The blade clattered to the floor, and Marin caught me, held me like a mother, like I was the child now. "You broke the mirror," she whispered, "and what crawled through it? I don't know, but it has your face." The hunger didn't leave, but it changed. It stopped demanding, started waiting, like it trusted I'd come back to it willingly, like it knew I would, and maybe I would. Because the truth is, even now as I write this, I still feel it, gnawing, patient, loving, like a baby, waiting to be born. Part 8. What we feed becomes us. Day 35. I haven't eaten in 3 days. Not food, not flesh, not dreams, just silence. A long, trembling silence between hunger pangs, like the breath before a scream. I thought the ritual would end it. Thought facing the younger me would kill the hunger. But it didn't. It only made me understand it. And now that I understand it, I can't unhear the voice. It doesn't beg anymore. It offers. It tempts and whispers. "You were always meant to carry me. Look how many are already feeding. You can bring them together. I walk the streets now, not to run from it, but to feel it. The streets pulse. I see them everywhere. The fed. You wouldn't know them by face. They look like anyone. Teachers, clerks, preachers. But you'll know them when they smile. Too wide, too patient, like they're waiting for the feast to begin. Marin hasn't spoken in 2 days. She sits in the corner of the room we're squatting in, eyes closed, whispering to someone who isn't there. Her voice is hoarse from chanting, but her face, it's peaceful, as if she's finally stopped fighting. I envy her. I asked her this morning, "Do you think we can ever go back?" She didn't open her eyes, just said, "Back to what?" And I didn't have an answer. Day 36. I visit Mason, not the real one. He's long gone. I mean the alley behind my old building. The first breach. Still stinks, still hums, still moves if you stare too long. And there's a child standing in it, staring up at me, his mouth sewn shut with thread. Same child from the photo Marin showed me. But now, he's smiling. "I know you," I whisper. He nods and disappears, not into thin air, but into me, like breath drawn inward. That night, I wake up with something in my hands, a bundle, small, warm. I think it's a dream until I hear it breathe and whimper. I unwrap it. It's not human, not quite. Pink and veined and pulsing. No eyes, just a wide, round mouth with no teeth, just tongues. It's hungry. I hold it close, not in fear, in recognition. This thing isn't the hunger. It's what the hunger creates. A child, an heir. I could kill it, snuff it out, end the cycle, but I don't, because I understand now. The hunger wasn't a curse. It was a womb, and I am its mother. Marin tries to stop me when I leave, sees the bundle in my arms, sees the change in me. She screams, begging me not to go. But her voice doesn't matter anymore. Only the child's, only the pull. I walk to the city square, middle of the night, streets silent, lamp posts flickering like faulty heartbeats. And I speak, words not my own, words I've never learned. Words that taste like ash and honey. They come from alleyways, from subways, from abandoned houses and hospital beds. The fed, the hollow, the children of the hunger. They form a circle around me. They kneel, and they listen. I place the bundle at the center of the square. It squirms, sings without sound, and begins to grow. Its tongue stretched like roots into the stone. Its skin splits into petals. Its breath becomes scent, and all who breathe it in change. The smiles grow wider. The hunger becomes joy, and the city tilts, not physically, but spiritually, like a great eye blinking open beneath it. This is the first bloom, the beginning of a feast that will not end, not until all hunger becomes one, not until silence is fed to screaming, not until the world is full again. I watch from above now. I'm not Nathan anymore. Nathan was the soil. I am the fruit, the bearer of flesh, the voice of the womb, the thing that mothers hunger. And if you're reading this, if these words reached you, then the hunger knows your name. You've tasted emptiness. You've prayed into the dark. You've begged for something to make you whole. And it heard you. It always does. So when the craving claws at your belly, when the voices whisper behind your mirror, when your teeth ache and you can't remember why, step outside, walk toward the coldest place, and knock 3 times. The door will open, and I will be there, smiling, waiting, hungry.
And that was tonight's tale from the Shadowed Tales archive. If it left a mark on your mind, If the silence feels heavier now, then the story did what it was meant to do. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the darkness. New stories are always on their way. Until then, keep the lights low and the doors locked.